Utah fans and Oregon fans, if you happen to be watching, and anybody else, any other great college football fans out there, it is a great week for college football. Unfortunately, we're also getting very close to the end of the regular season, and that's kind of sad because I just love college football. But hey, if you didn't have an end of the season, what would there to be look forward to? That first game of the season, when you start watching, you're looking forward to see the growth of your team and to see if they're going to perform up to expectations and to see if maybe, just maybe, they might surprise you. Win the conference championship game, go to a New Year's Six Bowl, possibly even the CFP. Unfortunately for Utah and Oregon, that scenario is probably highly unlikely unless we see all sorts of chaos this week or next, or the week after that. Yeah, but at any rate, just 2 weeks, other than the conference championship games, which could help us a little bit as well. But here's the thing. Oregon has outperformed certainly what people may have thought after the first game of the season when they got obliterated by the Georgia Bulldogs. We've seen the Georgians up to the task so far. And that they might, at least they're serious about defending their title. They might do it. Hard to tell, still a lot of football left to play, but Oregon is a completely different team now than they were in that game they played against the Bulldogs back on the first game of the season. They are a very potent offensive machine with a very capable defense. And those two things together scare me. Now, the oddity is that you'll have to wait until after this to find out.
For a first down. Nice there. That's the shot I'm talking about. There it is. Over the middle. It's caught. Touchdown. Devon Valet. That's beautiful, man.
I'd get Carlson a touch on the block. Carlson from deep, and we're tied.
Got the win. This is a victory lap of sorts for the super senior.
Ginormous double lamp.
All right, we're back. Jed Wonderly with the Utah Sports Report, and we are talking the upcoming game of the year, Utah against Oregon. Now, it is a must-win game for both teams if they want to position themselves in a good spot to make the conference championship game. If either one loses, they have to rely on a whole bunch of other things to happen in order for them to find a path to that game. But if they win, and I don't know, so if they win, it's an easier path for Utah than it is for Oregon. I should say if Utah wins, obviously, because Oregon would have 2 conference losses and we'd only have 1, and our next team is Colorado. But even if Oregon wins, their next team is Oregon State, at Oregon State. They're a good team, and they're even better at home. So Oregon doesn't have a cakewalk of a schedule in their last 2 games of the season. So that said, if Utah is able to go into Autzen Stadium, a very difficult place to play, but we saw last week when Washington went in there and beat Oregon, the Mighty Ducks, that they are beatable at home. And so kudos to Washington, who was able to pull that off and set the example for us. Now, they have a very potent passing attack, and their quarterback isn't nursing injuries. And I'm not making excuses. I'm just giving the facts. They've got probably a little bit better receiving core than we do. And, of course, our main receiver, Dalton Kincaid, who's a tight end, is quite banged up. Hopefully he'll be as healthy as he can be this coming Saturday so that we can have a very potent offense ourselves. And hopefully Tavion can do what he did last Saturday, or even better. I'd take that, so that we have all the chances we need to win. And hopefully our defense shows up and plays the best game of the year for them. Now that said, I said that Oregon has a potent offense. They're averaging about 527 yards a game. They're averaging, 230, high 30s, 235, 239, something like that on the ground, and about 288 and change through the air. Somewhere in there. It adds up to 527 and change. So very potent. They average 42.2 points per game. We're at around 39, so we're not any slouches ourselves. We're at about 460, 465 yards a game. I didn't check, but that's about where we are since we were up a little bit versus the prior week, and we were 450 something the prior week. So a little simple math tells me that we're up in the high 450s or low 460s per game. So still also very potent. So it's going to be a tough game. Now the oddity that I was talking about before the break is that Oregon is favored by 1 point. However, here's where it gets weird. The matchup predictor, the ESPN matchup predictor, gives us a 51.8% chance of winning. Apparently, ESPN's matchup predictor likes us more than the odds makers. So anyway, I hope that matchup predictor is right, and I hope we go in there and get a win. We're going to have Cam be Cam again, not overthrowing on some of those passes that he's been, missing by a fair amount sometimes, and other times a little closer. He needs to be accurate, very accurate. We need our receivers to not drop balls. We had a couple of balls that really should have been caught last week. We need Money Parks to really step up and have a great game, be a great deep threat. We need to have Tavion and whatever other running backs. Hopefully Glover and hopefully Jaquindon Jackson are healthy. Hopefully Cam's feeling good enough that he can do some 5 or 7, give or take, good runs that he typically does when he is healthy. And, hopefully all the regular players, the key players that we're talking about, do what they need to do to, if it's a track meet, and I'm kind of thinking it will be, to keep up with Oregon. Now, hopefully we can get some stops, and hopefully they don't stop us, but if they, and I'm sure they will, but a few times anyway. But hopefully we'll be able to go ahead and have the consistency, be minimal in our penalties, and have the consistency to continue drives, keep drives alive, and really do play the kind of game on both sides of the ball, and of course with special teams, where we'll be able to come out of Autzen with a win. Like I said, our defense needs to play the game of the year. Hopefully we can force a couple of turnovers. We didn't have any turnovers last game. If anybody, I don't care who makes the interceptions, but I'd love to see Clark Phillips get another interception. I'd love to see Zemiah Bond get his first interception. I'd like to see Jatravis Broughton get an interception, or any of our safeties or whatever. I mean, I'd like to see some fumble recoveries and whatnot for us, not for them. And I'd love to see just some good, solid, fundamentally sound football by us, where we're able to, just play an overall better game. Maybe have some plays that they're not used to. I'm curious to see how Ludwig uses Nate Johnson this week. I'm sure that he'll play some bit of a factor. So yeah, I'd like to see us play the game of the year. Now I know that's going to be hard to beat, because it was the game against USC was one heck of a game. Nice little kind of a comeback. We started off down 14-0 and then 21-7. outscored them solidly in the second half. Well, outscored them enough to win, and just did a really good job executing down the stretch. Played much better defense in the second half of that game, and Cam did what he needed to do in crunch time to get that final touchdown and then that 2-point conversion. And so, but that said, that was at home. They had the crowd behind them. They aren't going to have that luxury this weekend. And so they are going to really need to be strong, dig deep, and whatever few fans we have there, we're going to have to be loud and proud. Unfortunately, while I've got tickets, I'm end up not going, just because I've got too many things going on down here. But so if anybody needs some tickets, I've got some. Hit me up. But that said, a solid game out of Utah. Win the turnover battle. Hopefully win the time of possession battle. Try to limit their yards to hopefully a nice chunk below what they normally get, averaging 527. Like I mentioned, let's keep them 450 or below, and let's maybe stop a few drives. They're 75% on fourth down conversions, 18 of 24. I can't remember what we are. We're pretty good at fourth down conversions. And hopefully we do better at those this time than they do. And so my score prediction. And I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. Like I said, I hope our defense shows up. I'd love to see it something like the 2015 version when we went into Autzen Stadium and won 62-20. Covey was a freshman. You may recall he caught 2 touchdown passes. One beautiful one from Travis Wilson. Covey got behind the defense, was wide open. Defense probably had no idea who this little white kid was from Utah County. And there was another one. It was a flea flicker. I think Devontae Booker threw that one. Beautiful little option pass there. Now, will it be like that? I don't know. I sure would love it if that happened. I'm going to go with something more along the lines of, let's see, Washington beat them 37-34. I'm going to say we get I was going to say 41, but that would require 2 field goals or at least a missed extra point. The missed extra point could happen. That could happen. 2 field goals, unlikely, unfortunately. So instead of 41, I'm going to go with we get 42 points, and I'm going to say we hold Oregon to 34, which is the same score that we lost to Oregon State by last year when we hosted Oregon State at home. So I think we're going to do the switcheroo, except it's Oregon and not Oregon State. 42-34 for Utah, and that's my prediction. Before we go, again, remember, please like and subscribe. Give me your score predictions. Also, don't forget to tell me who you think is going to be, the key players of this game. I'm thinking Tavion's going to show up a second week in a row and be big for us. I think Cam will be more like Cam. I think we'll see a lot from Devon Vele, and I think we'll see some great stuff from Dalton Kincaid. I think he's going to itching to have make an impact this game. There'll be a few other players. I think Money Parks will have a few decent plays. I think Nate Johnson will do some fun things, and it'll be interesting to see what Ludwig does with him. But before we go, here's where I was going with that. Shout out to the Lady Ute basketball team. Holy cow! 124-78. The 25th ranked Lady Ute basketball team destroyed in the Huntsman Center the Lady Oklahoma Sooners, the Lady Sooners for Oklahoma. Amazing. Great game. They each had about the same amount of fouls. I think the Lady Utes had 24 and Oklahoma 23 or vice versa. It was 1 foul away, whatever it was. And we held them to 3 of 16 from 3. And they have a couple of really good three-point shooters, the Sooners do. And we shot not great from 3, but a lot better than 3 of 16. And we did overall for the game shoot 54% from the field. obviously had a nice percentage from too. We've got a great transfer player, Elisa Pili, who transferred from USC, and she is doing her thing. We also have some young players who are sophomores, and maybe I don't know if one of them's a junior. I don't think so. I think Neepkins and Jenna Johnson and the one from the small town by Oakley. I can't remember her name all of a sudden, but we've got some really good young players, and we've also got a point guard, Isabel Palmer, who's playing really well. I think she comes off the bench, but we got some couple of good point guards. We got some really good, fundamentally sound players who are good shooters. They play good defense. They share the ball. They are a good team. I think Lynn Roberts has this team headed in the right direction after appearing in the conference championship game last year against a Stanford team that just was head and shoulders above the conference overall, even though I do think they suffered a loss or two in the conference play last year. But again, shout out to the Lady Utes. I'm going to try to make it out for a game or two this year and check them out. But if they can do that, first of all, I think they're going to jump up high, big jump in the rankings. And it'll be fun to see what they can do because they've got a little bit of experience now. I think they've got some decent athletes who can run and play tough D and get their shot off and whatnot. I think they've got some good depth as well. So they've got a couple of freshmen who are playing some good minutes and quality minutes. So looking forward to seeing what they can do in addition to what our awesome Runnin' Ute men's team will do. And they'll be back in the Huntsman Center tomorrow at 7 o'clock against Sam Houston, who, coincidentally, beat the Oklahoma men's team the first game of the season. So come on out and support your Runnin' Utes, and let's fill up that Huntsman Center and get our guys some support. So for now, appreciate you watching, and go Utes.